Good evening, everybody. The president-elect's thank you tour, his thank you to the voters in the states that gave him his electoral college victory, got underway last night in the first stop, Cincinnati, and what a rally it was. The enthusiasm of the Trump supporters matching that of any revival meeting in the country. And like his audience, Mr. Trump had great fun. And he gave one of his best speeches of the year. He and the audience thoroughly delighted in his reminiscence of his gilded path to victory on election night 3 weeks, 3 days ago.
And we won it big. But then the people back there, the extremely dishonest press, said, right? How about when a major anchor who hosted a debate started crying when she realized that we won? Tears. No, tell me this isn't true. And you know what she doesn't understand? Things are going to be much better now. She doesn't understand.
And today, our irrepressible president-elect was back at it, another full day of marathon meetings at Trump Tower with potential contenders for some of the highest offices in government. And the president-elect told Fox News that he's only days now from announcing the rest of his administration.
We're going to pick our Secretary of State. We have some other announcements coming up literally very soon. And people are loving our choices so far. We're going to have an amazing cabinet.
No more announcements this week, you've said. What about next week? When can we
they'll start next week, big league. We already have some that we have, but they'll be starting next week, big league. We have some tremendous people that are coming on. You know, we're getting credit for having one of the great cabinets ever picked. These are people of great distinction, great success, which is what you need. You know, you're negotiating with people. You can't have people that didn't know how to get there. Mm-hmm. And we have tremendous people joining the cabinet and beyond the cabinet. So you'll be seeing almost all of them next week.
Well, our president-elect enthused, and we'll take up all of that with our guests here tonight. Among my guests, one of those who is tremendous and in the hunt for an important job at state, Ambassador John Bolton, meeting with Mr. Trump. He joins me here in just moments to talk about it all. Also with me, the Weekly Standard's Fred Barnes, American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Slapp, and Republican pollster Lee Carter. A lot to discuss tonight, including Democrats still snarly, weeping, and licking their wounds following their embarrassing loss to Donald Trump last month. During an election forum at Harvard's Institute of Politics last night, Clinton Communications Director Jen Palmieri engaged in some stunning gutter politics. She actually accused Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway of catering to white supremacists during the election.
If providing a platform for white supremacists makes me a brilliant tactician, I am glad to have lost. And one of Hillary, give me a minute, David. I am more proud of Hillary Clinton's all right speech than any other moment on the campaign, because she had the courage to stand up. I would rather lose than win the way you guys did.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes. Yes.
That's very clear today. No, you wouldn't, respectfully. Rather, I'm sorry, how exactly did we win? No, go for it, Jen. How exactly did we win? I'd like to know, because I've sacrificed the last 4 months of my life to do it. Excuse me. And we did it.
They did it. And the other side wonders why they lost. My God, the tone. Our top story tonight, the president-elect breaking with tradition today, speaking with the president of Taiwan. The telephone call, the first time an American president has talked with Taiwan's leadership in more than 30 years, and it is sure to infuriate Beijing. The Trump transition team released this statement about it all. During the discussion, they noted the close economic, political, and security ties that exist between Taiwan and the United States. President-elect Trump also congratulated President Tsai on becoming president of Taiwan earlier this year. And Trump, nearing the announcement of his final cabinet choices, meeting with a number of top contenders today. The day began with Trump announcing the president's Strategic and Policy Forum. It will be a group of 16 business leaders from companies such as Walmart, J.P. Morgan, Disney. They will meet and advise the president on how to bring back jobs, to get the economy moving to, well, double-digit growth, 4% growth And late this afternoon, we spotted New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in the Trump Tower, alongside none other than Kellyanne Conway. Trump's transition meetings also including a prominent Democrat, Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota. She's been mentioned as a possible choice to head the agriculture or energy departments. Earlier, Mr. Trump sat down with Senator David Perdue of Georgia and retired Admiral Jay Cohen. Attorney General Pam Bondi of Florida, an ardent Trump supporter during the campaign, also meeting with the transition team. And former Defense Secretary Robert Gates said he had a good talk with the president-elect. Gates reportedly suggested that the president-elect is considering, in his judgment, too many military people for civilian jobs. There is some irony in a former Secretary of Defense saying such a thing. And Trump also meeting today with former UN Ambassador John Bolton, who is said to be in the running for a job at the State Department, along with Mitt Romney, Rudy Giuliani, David Petraeus, and Senator Bob Corker. And here now to discuss his meeting with Mr. Trump today, in which he will reveal every word that was exchanged, Mr. Trump's call to Taiwan, and the foreign policy prospects ahead for the Trump administration in the midst of what has become a global populist wave. Joining me now, former ambassador to the United Nations, American Enterprise Institute senior fellow John Bolton, Fox News contributor as well. Great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Well, I promised the audience, as you heard, that you would divulge every word of that meeting, in jest, of course. How did it go?
Well, it was a very serious meeting, and I was honored to be there. And as I've now said probably for the umpteenth straight time, I'm old school enough that I don't want to get into the specifics. But look, I was glad to have the opportunity to speak with the president-elect.
Obviously, John and I are good enough friends that I can kid him about talking about the meeting. But I'm also straightforward enough to say he's one of the people I would hope would be part of the leadership of this government. He's an extraordinary man, and we wish you and the country the very best.
Well, thank you so much, Lou. I appreciate it.
Let's turn to this phone call, if I may, and because there is such a kerfuffle, if you will, emanating from some of the orthodox establishment types in Washington, D.C., over a phone call with the president of Taiwan, which has been such an important ally over the course of many decades. What is this all about?
Yeah, well, let me say we didn't discuss Taiwan, so before anybody gets upset and thinks that I had something to do with it, but I think it was exactly the right thing to do. I think that the President of the United States should talk to any foreign leader he thinks it's in the interest of the United States to talk to. This was a courtesy call, as all the other dozens of calls are that he's taken. Tsai Ing-wen is a democratically elected president of a representative government in Taiwan, a free government, a free press, free economy, the whole bit.
A great people.
And people who have been friends of the United States for decades after we have treated them shabbily time and time again, from what happened with the loss to China in the UN when they were replaced by Beijing, to the derecognition in the Carter administration, over and over again. And they have stood with us. It's a remarkable record.
When I say a great people, I mean in every sense of the word. Industrious, inventive, extraordinary, some of the greatest work ethics, a great people who deserve, as you suggest, as you say, far better from their most important and able ally. It is, to me, I will tell you, I'm heartened to see the president step forward and speak to whom he pleases.
Yeah, and let's be clear. This is a phone conversation. You know, this doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of policy changes.
No treaties or maps are redrawn?
I would certainly welcome some policy changes. But if you are in a place where you can't even talk to the leader of Taiwan, who put us in that place? What is it about the United States and its president that we feel inhibited in talking to somebody? I just want to have it explained why it's so upsetting to Beijing that we acknowledge this political and geographic reality off their coast.
And I want to turn to Jim Mad Dog Mattis. There is something about having a general whose nickname is Mad Dog at the top of the Defense Department that I cheer instantly. Once one knows who he is, you cheer all the more. Your thoughts on him?
Look, one of the points that Donald Trump made emphatically during the campaign was the need to rebuild America's defenses. We are strained in terms of manpower. We're way behind in procurement of weapon systems. We're not doing nearly enough in cyber warfare. We need to get up the national missile defense system that Obama has essentially destroyed. You need a leader at the Defense Department who can carry that burden to rebuild the military. And I don't know General Mattis personally, so I don't have any conflicts here, I think, but his reputation as one of America's finest military leaders, I think, will give him credibility with Congress when it comes to some tough budget decisions. I think he'll be an important voice around the National Security Council table.
Yeah, and I think one of the finest generals, here's Jack Keane, gives Mattis high marks as well, and I'm one of those, the friend of a friend, a general of a general. You know, these are remarkable men, and
indeed,
I think we're very fortunate as a country to have them, and certainly the administration coming in to have a choice of all of you, I think is wonderful. I do want to ask you about Italy, because that vote is coming up very quickly Sunday, and we see, again, the European Union itself threatened by rising, really right-wing populism in the continent. What do you expect? What are the likely effects?
Well, I think the very real possibility is that the referendum will decide not to grant the Renzi government more authority, and it will be treated as a rebuff to the European Union. This is what happens, you know, when you let the people vote. They tend to say what they think rather than what the leaders think. So people will describe this in some respects as right-wing populism. I don't think it is at all. I think it's a matter of people saying, you know, actually, we think we can govern ourselves. We don't need to be told by Brussels what to do. We don't need to be told by politicians in Rome what to do. And I think it will cause further erosion. I think this European Union experiment is entering into very grave territory here. They have tried to push too far, too fast, without popular support. Ultimately, it won't work.
And surprisingly, I think it can be fairly argued, whether you describe it as right-wing populism or simply rebellion against elites straightforwardly. We're watching Angela Merkel has led the EU into perdition with her initial policies and her attempt to recast herself and her policies, not likely to be successful.
Look, there are a number of votes and elections coming up across Europe in the next year. We need a new president to deal with a new reality in Europe. It won't come soon enough.
We're always ahead of those Europeans. We've got a new president on the way. Ambassador John Bolton, good luck. We appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Thank you so much, Lou.
President-elect Trump today reaffirmed his commitment to protect and to create jobs following the carrier deal and a new report on the state of our labor market. The economy added 178,000 jobs in November. The unemployment rate fell to 4.6%. That's a 9-year low. But to be clear, the decline in the unemployment rate because of more than 400,000 workers who dropped out of the labor force. The labor force participation rate moving lower. It is now, again, near historic lows. Hourly wages also moved lower in November, but are up from a year ago, 2.5%. So some encouragement there. And we're coming right back with more encouragement, a great deal more news, and a lot more folks who have a lot important to say. We hope you'll stay with us. We're coming right back. President-elect Trump is driving his America First agenda, and he's unconcerned about disgruntled Democrats.
I don't think we're going to have to use very many executive orders because we have a Congress that's going to go along with things. And I think a lot of Democrats are going to join the train.
The question now, who wouldn't want to make America great again? We take it up with Fred Barnes here next. And the Clinton and Trump campaign leaders clash at Harvard. We'll have that for you and much more straight ahead. Stay with us. Donald Trump's senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway, engaging in a heated exchange with Clinton Communication Director Jennifer Palmieri last night. Conway made it very clear why Clinton's campaign failed to resonate with voters.
Do you think I ran a campaign where white supremacists had a platform? You going to look me in the face and tell me that?
It did. Kellyanne
really?
did.
Oh, and that's how you lost?
It did.
Do you think you could have just had a decent message for the white working class voters? Do you think this woman who has nothing in common with
I'm not
anybody,
saying that's why you won, but that's
these
the kind of
counties
campaign
we
that was
flipped
run.
over 200 counties that President Obama won and Donald Trump just won? You think that's because of what you just said, or because people aren't ready for a woman president? Really? How about it's Hillary Clinton? She doesn't connect with people. How about they have nothing in common with her? How about you had no economic message?
How about that, Jen? Kellyanne Conway. You know, there's such a thing as, it's just not a fair fight. Kellyanne Conway brings everything to the fight, and on top of that, she enjoys it, as you just saw and heard. Joining me now, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, Fox News contributor, Fred Barnes. Fred, great to have you here.
Thanks.
I mean, Paul, what is your takeaway from that exchange?
Well, I have two of them. One is, I sure wouldn't want to get in an argument with Kellyanne Conway. I know her. I've seen her do this many times. I've never seen her lose an argument, that's for sure.
Right.
But secondly, you know, was what Jennifer Palmieri was saying, and lots of Democrats and the Clinton people and so on, they cannot handle this defeat. It was a sweeping defeat at the top with Trump and then all over the states, and they cannot accept it. They cannot even handle it. And so what they're doing is, their response is not saying, well, you know, we really have to study this. We're going to get our Democratic Party together, and so we're going to be ready in 2018 with a better campaign. Yeah. No. They are making a lot of demands and accusations about Trump and other Republicans.
Oh, it's pitiful. I mean, the entire left of this country is pathetic. They're going to carry on a perpetual battle and campaign against not only the Trump administration and presidency, but the entire against America. I mean, it just they will not be satisfied until this is no longer a constitutional republic. And I say very simply to them, the hell with you. If you want a battle, you've got a battle. And, you know, I will tell you the truth. In Kellyanne Conway and the rest of the administration, they have obviously chosen off far more than they can successfully at least contend with.
Yeah, absolutely. But these Democrats and the Clinton people, they think some cosmic injustice has happened.
I just don't care how they feel, honestly, Fred. I don't care how the little darlings feel. I don't give a damn what they think. They have had 8 years, and what they have done is just simply weaken, to bleed this country, and to denigrate it, and to, you know, it's just awful what they've done, and it's going to take a lot of hard creative work to even restore this country to where it was 10 years ago.
Indeed.
And let's turn to the administration. I mean, it's an impressive list of people that that Donald Trump is gathering. The president-elect right now has billionaires, as he pointed out in his speech. And by the way, I love the fact that he had such a great time last night in Cincinnati with that thank you tour first stop. But he's surrounding himself with the people he said he would, winners, and it's impressive.
It is impressive, and it's not what the media and Democrats and others expected. They thought he was going to be a bunch of cronies that he picked. It hadn't been that way at all. A lot of these are people he hasn't known, but what impresses me the most is he's gotten people who fit the job, highly qualified people who fit the job. Senator Sessions at the Justice Department, Betsy DeVos, an education expert at the Education Department, Tom Price, the congressman at HHS.
Don't filibuster me now, because I'm going to get to that Paul Ryan question we always discuss each time you're here. Ryan telling 60 Minutes that he didn't see this one coming, and that he and the president have patched it all up. And yesterday he wouldn't mention his name. Ryan would not mention the president's name. He would credit the vice president-elect, but not the president-elect. This is a man with a real problem, don't you think?
No, I don't think so at all. Donald Trump doesn't seem to think so. I think they're getting along fine. They certainly disagreed before, but for Paul Ryan to say he didn't expect Donald Trump to win the presidency, I didn't either. I can name on my one hand the number of people I know.
Fred. That isn't his offense. His offense is he continues to insult the president-elect. He continues to have a very difficult time even saying the words Donald Trump, president-elect.
Lou, you don't need to be thin-skinned on Trump's behalf.
I'm not thin-skinned at all. I'm not thin-skinned, but I'm also not blind, nor am I deaf. And if he's going to play the fool, I'm going to certainly point him out.
They're allies now. They talk every day.
Well, he's got to walk before to impress me. His talk.
I mean, Ryan needs Trump. Trump needs Ryan. But Trump is the guy in charge. He's the president. I've talked to Ryan.
I'd sure love to hear the speaker say that just once, because what we hear is just nonsense. Fred, with nonsense, we have to end. Fred.
All right.
Good to see you. Have a great weekend. Can't wait till our next installment on Paul Ryan right here. Same bat channel, as they say. Thanks so much, Fred Barnes.
I'm up for it.
You got it. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. Which do you think is more unconventional? President-elect Trump, who fights for all, or a GOP speaker more aligned with a Democratic president? Which is unconventional to you? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. And follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. On Wall Street, stocks closed mixed. The Dow down 22 points. The S&P up a fraction. The NASDAQ up 5 points. Volume on the big board dropping off to 3.8 billion shares. For the week, the Dow up less than 1%. The S&P and NASDAQ both posted losses on the week. The Dow having quite a march. And a reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, Speaker Paul Ryan. Yes, I'm going to talk about Paul Ryan again. And he's speaking out about his relationship with the president-elect. You just heard Fred said that the president-elect and Paul Ryan have a splendid relationship. We'll examine that. And as the Drudge reported, quote, Paul Ryan takes walk of shame. Let's just look at the picture. I could have. That's the subject of my commentary. Stay with us. We'll be right back. A few thoughts now on a fellow who no one quite gets, no one quite understands, no one quite comprehends, including members of his own party. I'm referring to, of course, our Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who has disrespected, no, he's insulted our president-elect throughout this year, but who does so now without pretense or purpose? Paul Ryan can barely bring himself to utter Donald Trump's name, lest he sully his precious lips. Here is Paul Ryan in an upcoming interview with 60 Minutes. You will notice the speaker's discomfort, nay, internal conflict, twisting his guts when asked if he believed Trump would be nominated. Here he is.
No, I didn't see this one coming. He knows that. Donald Trump's he was a very unconventional candidate. He's going to be an unconventional president.
You could almost hear him saying, tisk, unconventional. Ryan claims he's now patched things up with the president-elect, and they're looking forward, as he put it. Yet, when speaking about Trump's deal to keep carrier jobs in Indiana just yesterday, the speaker appeared incapable of crediting the president-elect by title or by name, giving more credit to Governor Pence. Ryan is perpetually, it seems, puerile, and I think at some point will be broken of his nature. But Ryan's not the only one in Republican leadership struggling with a swamp we know will soon be drained. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy earlier this week saying the Freedom Caucus will essentially be less influential in the new Congress and will have a hard time pushing back against the establishment and the leadership. McCarthy, who is not exactly a boy genius, also added the Freedom Caucus made House Republicans weaker. No more mature or better counseled, obviously, than his speaker. Perhaps the majority leader missed what happened in the election just 3.5 weeks ago. The Republican House leadership is clearly out of step with the American people, who are sick and tired of the status quo, the policies, and the attitudes of the establishment, to which Ryan and McCarthy obviously and untiringly genuflect. President-elect Trump takes the oath of office in just 48 days. Your consideration is straightforward. Congress, represent the will of the people and respect the man they elected president. It's all a lot simpler than your House leadership seems to think. And our quotation of the evening, this one from a fellow by the name of Ted Turner, who had this expression mounted on a board on his desk. It read, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. I'm quoting from memory here, and I confess it may not have had the word hell in it, but I sincerely believe it should have if it didn't. We're coming right back. The president-elect says protecting Americans is his top priority, and he promises to stop radical Islamists.
We will suspend immigration from regions where it cannot be safely processed.
The Obama administration has been welcoming with open arms unvetted refugees from hotspots in the Middle East for years. John Hanna joins me next. We'll talk about Trump's efforts to make America safe again. It probably won't surprise you that the Obama administration has refused to answer direct questions from Congress on a secret refugee deal. Nearly 2,500 refugees from terrorist hotspots around the world may now be headed to the United States after rejected by Australia. The U.S. State Department says details on the agreement are classified and our Congress cannot know. Officials did confirm some of the countries of origin: Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Somalia, Iraq, and Sudan. Another category of refugee was deemed, quote, stateless. Iran, Sudan, Syria, considered state sponsors of terrorism. President Obama doing everything in the power of the executive to bring in more refugees and then some. He's raised the quota to allow 110,000 refugees in the upcoming year, up from 85,000 the previous year. Each one of those refugees immediately allotted over $1,500 from the government once they land on American soil, $1.5 billion slated to go to the nonprofits and states for refugee processing, resettlement, and a 73% increase since the president took office. As we pointed out, this does not include costs associated with numerous government programs, including supplemental security income, temporary assistance for needy families, many other sources of welfare directed specifically and incentivizing these refugee resettlements. Joining me now is the Foundation for Defense of Democracy senior counselor and former Cheney National Security Advisor, John Hanna. John, good to have you with us. This is outrageous that the United States Senate, the United States Congress cannot get information about refugees being directed into this country and taxpayer dollars being used to both bring them and to resettle them here and sustain them.
Yeah, no, this is astounding, Lou, and I can't think of a better textbook example for why President Obama and Hillary Clinton got their heads handed to them on November 8th. Think about it. I mean, this is a secret deal, cuts out the Congress, circumvents the clearly expressed will of the American people, and appears to prioritize the interests of the international community, United Nations, over the interests of the American people. And this is exactly why it's Donald Trump and not Hillary Clinton that is going to be taking that oath of office on January 20th. The American people are fed up with this way of doing business.
We are incentivizing local communities in this country. We are incentivizing states, nonprofits that have a financial benefit directed at them by the federal government to bring in refugees, to resettle, and to sustain them. The Congress has been mindless in permitting this, and last year in the omnibus spending bill, the Republicans have to take, and Speaker Ryan and his leadership have to take ownership because they did nothing but fully fund all of this in that spending legislation.
Yeah, no, I think listen, President Trump on January 20th is going to end whatever Obama is doing here for sure. But before then, I think it's clearly within the writ of the Congress to pass a law that ensures not a single U.S. taxpayer dollar gets applied to this effort to bring these people in. The fact is that, and there's a greater danger here, Lou, and it is that this is a president, a lame duck president, in the twilight of his presidency, who's going to try and ram down a lot of things that simply advance a ideological agenda and really attempt to tie the hands of his successor. And I think it's going to fail, and the Congress ought to ensure it fails.
And you're not reassured by the word of the White House that they would not try such a thing at these midnight opportunities? I'm kidding, John, of course. I don't think there are many Americans who follow events as closely as you do who would not be skeptical to the bone. Let's turn to one thing that did happen today that I think warrants your analysis, and that is this phone call between the president of Taiwan, President Tsai, and the president-elect, What do you make of it? Such a kerfuffle, if you will, over what seems something to be very both out of date and irrelevant. That is, no discussing things with Taiwan because we're fearful of the reaction of the People's Republic of China.
Yeah, no, I'm sure this is something that not a single American who hasn't spent decades working at the State Department can understand the absurdity of the fact that the President of the United States cannot call the democratically elected leader of a law